Hello, hello, hello. This is Chris Ferdinandi from GoMakeThings.com. And today I thought we'd do something a little bit different. I wanted to take an old jQuery DOM manipulation plugin and see if we can convert it into a vanilla JavaScript web component. And I thought a good one to do that with today might be lettering.js. This was a relatively simple jQuery plugin from Dave Rupert and a couple of other folks that was really popular back in the day before CSS made this something that was a lot easier to do. But the idea is that if you have some sort of heading, you can use it to wrap each letter in that heading in a span that you can then customize and style slightly differently. And so you can see at the time, this was actually used by some pretty big names, including places like Crayola. There's a nice little kind of demo page set up that shows you some of the different things you can do, where you've got different letters and words all styled a little bit differently in lots of fun kind of ways. So I actually think this is going to be a two-step process for this one. So I think an easy way to approach this would be to first convert this from jQuery into a more modern class-based JavaScript plugin, and then take that and convert that into a web component. So I think just from a strategy perspective, that's the way I'm probably going to approach this. Full disclosure, I have not actually looked at the code or planned this out. You're going to get to see me kind of do this conversion in real time. So if that's something that you find interesting, you're going to love this video. If that's something that you find boring, you're probably going to hate this one. And you can probably just skip to one of the recommended ones over, I forget which side of the wall they're going to be on, but jump to one of the other videos if that's not something you're interested in. I recently decided to stop selling expensive courses that most folks can only afford with a corporate training budget and focus on creating more excellent free content, including YouTube videos like this one. A recurring Go Make Things membership helps me create more videos like this and also gets you some cool perks like access to my private Discord community and my personal collection of courses, guides, and code snippets. There are a range of membership levels available, and they all get the same stuff. Even $3 a month helps keep this channel going. You can join or learn more at gomakethings.com/join. So with that out of the way, I have the source code downloaded already, and I have the HTML file for this open. I am going to create a duplicate. We're actually going to make two versions of this one. So we're going to say, let's say vanilla.lettering.js, and we'll make another one later that we will call web component or WC, but we'll get to that eventually. So let's go jQuery dot. Okay, so here we can go vanilla.js, and we don't need the jQuery version of this at all. So we can get that out of the way. And this right here, I actually think we're going to move this all down to the footer because back in the day, it was convention to put that sort of stuff up at the top and then wait for the DOM to be ready. But these days, we'll load all this stuff in the footer. And let's go ahead and open up lettering.js. And, oh, it's vanilla, not vanilla.js. There we go. Getting the name right would be helpful. And also, this isn't going to work. So we'll comment that out so that we don't get any errors. And if we reload the page, you can see everything just kind of looks boring and normal. So opening up our code here, we have an iffy around this, but it's a jQuery style iffy that's passing in jQuery proper and assigning it to the $sign. And we've got a bunch of functions doing a bunch of stuff. All right, so this is the main entry point here. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to open this in. You know what I'm actually going to do? I'm going to do something a little different. We're going to open the jQuery tab here, and let's go split pane for a minute. We'll probably make this single pane eventually, but I'm going to completely wipe out everything that's in the vanilla version. And then I'm going to jump over to the members portal for Go Make Things. And under my toolkit, I have a class pattern boilerplate, and I'm just going to copy that and paste it in here as a starting point. The old way, this uses, the jQuery constructor thing where you pass in your selector and then call lettering. But with vanilla JavaScript, we would do this a little bit differently. So we would say class equals lettering, and then we'd have a constructor. So we would say new lettering, and we would pass in some sort of selector and then maybe some options. So I'm not liking this split pane. I don't think it's big enough. So let's go ahead and bring this all together, and we'll just toggle back and forth. On a knit, you see we've got this each, and then it's running over each of the selectors, passing in different options. We've got words, characters. Let's see, what is injector doing? So it's doing its split. The splitter is an option. Okay, so words and lines are different kind of like helpers you can use, if I'm understanding this correctly. Let's jump over here and see a little bit more about the API. So, yep, you call lettering. That's one option. You can pass in words or pass in lines. Lettering words, children's span, and you're going to do it again. What was the output of that? I should have done this differently, huh? So where we've got examples, I should go index.jQuery. We should preserve the old version, yeah? So let's undo that, and down here we'll keep the old one going because I want to see how this works. That would have been smarter of me. Oh yeah, and then we need to actually open it up. Okay. So lettering lines, and then with chaining, we've got within each word, you're doing a subset. Okay. All right. That's a little interesting. We might not get to that piece of it. But we'll figure this out. This will be fine. So this is the main one we care about. Okay. So the very first thing here is selector. Okay. And I'm going to try to replicate this as much as possible. Let's see, when this runs, what are words and lines doing? Is that documented? Let me see if that's documented here. Cool. So words, letters, words, lines, and more. Okay, there's a wiki. Cool. Lettering, lines, chaining, wrapping letters. It actually doesn't. It looks like these are, so these are just convenience methods that are going to run lines or words respectively. And let's see. Oh, here we go. Yep. So this explains it, right? So return methods apply, slice, return, error, method does not exist. Cool. And then is this calling? Does lines actually get called anywhere other than here? No, that's the only place. So let's just also see. So we've got the selector, the splitter, the K class. Okay. All right. So whether it's character or line, and if you're doing lines, the splitter is more complex. Okay. Ooh. Okay. So we've made a tough one here, I see, with lines. Different. We got words. Where, you know what? We'll get to that. We'll cross that bridge. So I see the different splitters here, right? So the default is let's let's say init. Oh, yeah. So you pass in the method as an argument. Okay. I see what's going on here. So method equals, and the default value on this. All right. Just so if anybody's, because I did not explain that clearly. So this is the entrance point. These are the different methods that it uses internally. So we've got a method. It's going to make sure the methods are supported. If not, it throws an error. And then the default method equals letters. So if there's no method, it's going to use letters. That's the default entry point. So we're actually going to now, in modern JavaScript, we can have a default argument there. So we're going to do that. And with the selector, it calls init, and it's looping over each one and running it. So yeah, this was an old jQuery thing where you could potentially have multiple elements that matched a selector. We're not going to do that. We're going to enforce like a one in, one out kind of situation. So we can skip the for each, but we are going to have injector. So let's go ahead. We can just bring this in as is, because this is mostly vanilla. So we're gonna do some stuff in here eventually. Probably call the injector, but we're not gonna do that yet. And while we're here, let's go ahead and update to some modern conventions. Let's see. So we are. I like to have all of my variables individually defined. So we'll go like that. And then if A has length, text equals T text, that would be, these days it would be either inner text or text content. Let's take a look here and see inner text versus text content. Get and set the text without the markup. So that's the one we want. We want this one, text content. Okay, so equals text content. And then we're going to split it based on the splitter. Inject. We'll see what that does. So then inside this method, so we're trying to deconstruct this and convert any of the jQuery stuff we see into vanilla JavaScript. So let's go ahead and actually maybe start to document this a little bit too, right? So we're going to inject span elements around letters. So this is, I think this is the element. Let's see what we're doing here. So if we look through injector, so it's the element. I actually don't like that name, right? So T, can this be element? Yeah. Make it a little bit more obvious, right? So we're going to go LM. I just want to keep track of everything that's here. So this is an element, okay? The element, we're modifying text in. The splitter is, let's get a sense for what that is. Okay, so that's it's a string, and it's the characters to split on. K class, that's a string. That's a class name to use for each character. And then what are we doing with after here? Is anything actually being added there? Yeah. Okay. So that's another string. Okay. So that's string characters to add after each letter. And then I don't see any return, so we can get rid of that. Okay. So now we have an injector method. Yeah, we can pass in the element. We might take advantage of constructors work, to not have to pass that as an argument. We'll see. But so we're getting the text content. We are splitting it on whatever our splitter is. We are setting, let's see, where's this used? Inject. Okay, so we're building up a string. So we're looping through each of the items and we're building up a string, which we're then going to append into the existing DOM. All right, cool. So let's convert this to modern JavaScript. So we're going to go a for each, and then we can steal this function. Okay. So these get reversed. So it's actually item I in the for each method. And then aria label equals the original text. That makes sense. Okay, so element set attribute would be the modern way to do that. And then here they're wiping it out and appending our updated text. But we're going to do this a little bit differently. So let's actually, so there was a whole chained kind of thing happening here that we're going to do differently. So let's say, let updated equals, and we're going to use, instead of for each, we're going to use map. Here, we'll do this, right? So map join, cool. So we're going to join this whole thing together. We're going to update this to a slightly nicer syntax, and we'll return here. Okay, so what we're doing with array map, I'm looping through each of these items. I am creating a new array that has our updated text, and then I'm joining it into a string. We're going to set the aria label on the item of the original text, and actually we can do this first. Here, let's make this easier. We'll set the aria label, we'll loop through, and then what we can do is we can say element inner HTML equals, and this, just, it's supposed to be, it's like it's an array. So I'm going to do that. So we don't need to join or append. We can use inner HTML to just override the whole thing all at once. Cool. So we're manipulating our text and then we're injecting it. Now let's take a look at our methods. So there was 3 of them. Let's go ahead and bring these in. And method equals letters. All right, so I'm going to bump the injector down to the bottom. We are going to use the modern syntax here. So we'll just go init words and lines. And instead of init, I'm actually going to call this letters. That way we're being a little bit more consistent. Now, the use of return was to support chaining. We can probably still do that here. But I will get to that in actually, we'll make this nice and easy. So we'll say return this. Might not even be necessary, to be honest with you, but let's see here. And this, so we'll go return this. All right, let's take a look at what's happening in each of these. So yeah, it's doing that loop through this. All right, yeah. Okay, yeah, so we can make this happen. So here's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna say this lm equals document query selector. So we're going to get the element. And this method equals method. Okay. So we're going to define our properties. and then we're probably going to do something with them. We'll figure that out. And actually, I guess one other really important thing to do, make sure method is supported. So this is something they were doing in the original, right? Where if the method is not one of the supported methods, or if it is, we're going to do it. If not, we're going to throw an error. Okay, so yeah, we can move that. We can move that to here. So make sure there's an element to modify. So if there's no element, what were they doing? They were doing an error. Okay, cool. Console warn. We'll say lettering.js element not found. Okay. Return. And if no this method, actually, yeah, we can just do that. And then we'll do this, right? Same thing. So lettering, method not supported. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking in the background. He's very on edge today. Cool. Otherwise, we can run this method. I'm not even sure if we need to actually save this as a property yet. We'll get there. So we're going to do this. Run the method. And each of these methods is going to run the injector with some different arguments. So let's take a look and see how they all work. So we're going to say split on letters. Okay. And split on words. And split on lines. Cool. As if that wasn't self-evident. Okay, cool. So remember, we're not going to use each. We're not doing that. That was like a jQuery thing. We're not going to worry about that. So we've got our injector method. We've got this. So we can say this lm, and then we're going to say this injector, this lm, space, character, space. For here, we're going to repeat ourselves. So this injector, this lm, and again, we'll return this because chaining does seem to be a thing that they want to support here. And finally, for lines, we'll do this. So we'll say let, because it's hard to split break tag consistently across browsers, we replace all break instances with an MD5 hash of the word split. If you're trying to use this plugin on MD, it will fail because you're being ridiculous. Okay, cool. So here we're going to say this element children break. So this was a jQuery thing where you would find all of the break elements. So instead, we're going to say query selector all break. I see the problem here. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we can, we'll get all of the break elements, and then we're going to replace them with this. And yeah, we don't need this end method, I don't believe. Yeah, so we'll do this. We'll hope it works. Let's see. This one's the only one I'm a little bit dicey on. And what exactly are we? Yeah, this one might not, split on lines might not work the way I hope, because we're just passing in one element. So this might not work. In fact, actually, we'll leave it in for now. I think it's going to fail. If it does, I'm going to ignore it because at this point, I don't care. I just want to get the rest of it working. All right, cool. So now in our real deal version, Oh yeah, one other thing. There's a bit of CSS here that they're doing that I want to they're doing with jQuery, and I want to actually add it to the real CSS. So we're going to say demo 5 h1 span, and then we are going to say display inline block and transform. We don't need the WebKit prefix anymore, and then we're going to rotate it. So we'll do this, and that will only take place if should only take place if lettering is enabled. So we don't really need jQuery for that. All right, now let's actually see this in action and figure out if I did it right or I screwed it up. So I should now have a lettering object in the DOM. And so we can say, for each of these, I'm just going to type them new. We can say new lettering. And in this case, we're going to go, wow, we'll copy paste. Demo 1 H1. This is going to run with our generic arguments. This works so much better when you type properly. Demo 2 H1. And then this one's going to use words as the method. New lettering. Demo 3 paragraph. This one's going to use lines. That's the one I'm most unsure about. And then new lettering. I don't know why I keep typing letter instead of lettering. We've got demo 4 H1. That is running on words. And then for each of the spans inside it, we want to run it again with the generic. Yeah, this is where that chaining might not actually work. Yeah, we're gonna skip that. We're gonna skip those for a minute, and we'll figure out a different way to do those. Let's just start with these three, and then we'll jump over to our example. And they did not work. Let's see why. Element text content is not a function. You're right. It is a property. That's exactly right. Text content. Cool. A is not defined. Okay. Yep, because I updated the name of that. And then I didn't change it in all places. All right, here we go. Injector is not defined. Where am I running injector? Injector. This injector. There we go. Okay. This element query selector all replace with is not a function. Okay. Yes, because I need to loop over each one. Okay. Query selector all for each function break replace with. Okay. This and then yeah, why is this? Oh yeah. Yeah, so this should be here. Yeah, the only problem with this is line is expecting an element, not whatever this is. So this is all sorts of wrong. Let's take a look at that one a little bit more closely. So yeah, this seems like it's an IE problem. And like, so what are they? We're trying to pass in. Maybe we should loop over each one. Maybe that's the right way here. So if I look at injector, it's the element, the text. Like what? How is that the text? I'm really confused here. And then what are we doing with the text? So inject. You couldn't even set the. I'm just gonna skip lines. I don't want to. I don't understand what's happening here. We'll try this differently. Okay. I guess actually we should look up what jQuery end does. Operate on jQuery, produce a new one. This happens. New set is pushed to the stack. Each successive filtering method pushes new. We need older element set, so we can use end to pop the sets back off in the stack. End the most recent filtering operation in the current chain and set a new one to its previous state. Okay. So we're injecting, like, what would this actually give you? I'm really, really curious about what happens in that kind of case. So you're getting all of the children break elements. You're replacing them with this hash. And then that first argument is supposed to grab the text, but it really doesn't. Like, we're supposed to be splitting on that. I don't understand what's supposed to be happening here. Yeah, I don't. Oh, is it bringing you back to the element? Okay. Yeah, so this isn't even really, we'll do this. I don't think this is strictly necessary, but we'll do this. No, you know what? It's not necessary. We're splitting on the break. So we'll do this differently. That was an IE thing. I don't think we need to do this at all. Okay. So we're splitting on. Okay. I do see the issue because break can be with or without trailing slashes. There's a bunch of different. Okay. All right. So here's what. All right. Let's bring this in the normal way. So we're going to this element children. Nope. Query selector all break for each function break. Okay. So we're going to replace each break with this string, and that's okay. And then we are going to pass this element in, and then we're going to run our function as normal. That should hopefully work. It might not. We'll see. All right, cool. We got past it. Sweet. So we've looked at the first 3 demos. I'm not worrying about chaining right now. So demo 1, demo 2, demo 3. Lines worked. All right, cool. That worked. Awesome. All right, so we've got a function. The chaining here, so we're grabbing each of the spans and then we're running lettering on them. The reason this won't work with our method is because we're not looping over for each. We're not doing that. Like, you'd basically have to call new lettering again. So the chaining here, it would give you access to like the child methods, but that's not really what we're doing. So we don't need to even do that. We're gonna pull those out because it's not necessary. Cool. So we've got a functional vanilla JavaScript version right now. So just to quickly recap, we don't even need this method. That can go away. So when the constructor runs, we get the element based on our selector. If it doesn't exist, we throw a warning. If the chosen method doesn't exist, we throw a warning. Otherwise, we run our method. For lines, it's running the injector on the element with every character. For words, it's splitting on spaces. And for lines, it's splitting on breaks. But because those can be formatted in a bunch of different ways, we need to pass in some kind of hashed version and replace them. And then everything works the way it should. The injector is doing its magic to inject various contents to do different things. Cool. All right. All good. Let's make this a web component because the way this works is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to save this as index.wc, and we can delete all of this stuff, and we can delete all of this stuff, and we'll save it. we will save this as web component lettering, and we will load web component lettering. And for now, it's going to continue to work because it is identical, but we're going to go members.gomakethings.com. And in our toolkit, we've got a web component boilerplate. This has way more stuff than we need, and that's okay. Let's also open up vanilla. I'm going to do some copy paste from there, I think. Let's leave it in the bottom for now, but we don't need most of this stuff. So let's take that all out. And what do we want to call this? Let's call this, so web components, custom elements need to be at least 2 words separated by a dash. So where normally I would call this lettering, I think we'll call it WC lettering. That'll be the easiest way to kind of handle this. I am going to update the HTML first so we can see how this works. So the big difference here, bearing in mind we're only using the first 3 demos. So so demo 1, 2, and 3, but these advanced demos go away. And I should actually probably do that with the other one just to avoid some confusion. So in here, just if you happen to see this, right? These advanced demos go away, and that CSS thing I did, we don't need that either. So we'll get rid of that. Cool. Let's just keep everything nice and tidy. All right. So in this version, instead of what's shown here, and instead of even caring about these selectors, we're going to wrap our content that we want to style in the WC lettering custom element. So we'll do that. We got to do it for everywhere. Okay. So we'll do it here. We'll do it here. And we will do it here. So that's step 1. And we're going to notice that this breaks some things. Why is activate? Oh yeah, because I'm actually running some web component code here, which we don't want to do. So we can strip all this out. So the most important part here, we've got our constructor and it's running. Now the reason this is failing is because now we've got a nested element. So and lettering is not defined inside our web component. So that's all. Oh no, like at all. That's right, because I'm not loading it. Cool. So the way web components work, we've defined our custom element and we're going to run this class on it. And so all of the stuff we were doing here in our constructor with new lettering, web components are self-instantiating. So all of that is going to automatically happen inside the web component. So instead of having to run new whatever, that just automatically happens as part of this constructor process. And where we were using our selector to get the element is automatically this in our web component. So we don't need to do the query selector thing at all. So let's go ahead and we'll pull in the methods first. So nothing about these has to change. This is all going to work exactly the same way because we have almost exactly the same way because we're working with a class. So the big stuff is going to happen here. So we don't need to define our element. Technically we could say this element equals this, but there's no need to do that. And we don't need this check either. What we do need to do, actually, define our method. So this method equals, And then it's going to be this. This is the big difference between web components and traditional DOM manipulation methods is in the old version, we're passing in the method as an argument. In this one, it's going to be an attribute. So we're going to say it's going to be the method, right? So we're going to get that attribute. And if it doesn't exist, our default will be letters. And if this method is not supported, we're going to throw a warning. Otherwise, we're going to run our method function. So now, inside each of these, we're going to pass in, this. So if we run, actually, you know what? We don't even need. We can just define it like this. It doesn't need to be saved. That was silly. We don't need it as a property. So this method, this get attribute, if there's no method. All right, cool. Sorry, I don't know. My brain goes to saving it as a property. It's not necessary in this case. So here, we're passing in this instead of this element, because this is the class, the instantiation, the current instance, but it also is the element that's being instantiated on. So this, and in here we've got this. Let's see, and I just want to make sure, does anything else on these need to change? Oh yeah, so this query selector all, for each, replace with. All right, that's all fine. And then we technically don't even need to pass in the element at all, right? So we'll do it. We'll just keep it that way because I actually think it's a little bit cleaner and neater to do it that way. But like, you theoretically could eliminate it and just reference this. I think it gets a little bit sloppier when you do that. So we're gonna keep it as is. So we will do this, and then over here, we don't need to instantiate it all, but we've got words and lines. So that's the big change we're going to need to make. So let's stop for a second and reload. So you can see by default, everything is doing letters. We are going to fix that by saying, we'll add a method attribute on the ones that need it. So this will be words, and method equals lines. And now we're doing it based on lines and words and letters, and everything is working the way we would like. So yeah, the big difference here with the web component is we've eliminated any need to instantiate, because that happens automatically. The existence of the custom element triggers things to run, and any sort of customizations we want to make, those happen as attributes on the element. Now you could go with data method if you want. When I'm using custom elements, I like to use custom attributes, but some people like it, some people don't. It's just a thing I do. It's totally up to you. But we now have a working conversion of lettering.js into both a traditional DOM manipulation library using vanilla.js and a modern web component. I will make sure that links to both of these end up down in the description below. And thank you so much for watching. This video and others like it are made possible thanks to the generous support of my Go Make Things members. A recurring membership helps me create more videos like this and also get you some cool perks. Join or learn more at gomakethings.com/join.